NetsBoy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play. What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bring your latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. All right, let's go. Let's dive right in. We got a lot to talk about in this episode, a lot to go over. It's been a couple of weeks since my last NetsBoy episode. I was trying to wait until the offseason was officially complete before I posted my next video, and I'm pretty sure it's safe to say the offseason is done, considering that, depending on when you're seeing this video, the Nets are about to play their first preseason game against the Wizards. So, pretty sure as of right now, most, if not all, of the offseason moves are done. So, this is the time to continue the next NetsBoy episode. This episode is going to be, my preseason, before the season starts, expectations and predictions, in which I talk about the roster and what I expect from this team moving forward. We're also going to look at the latest moves that Sean Marks made since the last episode, kind of solidifying the roster. We're going to look at the roster, talk about what I think this team can do and what they look like and who I think can step up, and so on and so forth. But before we talk about that, I would like to talk about and address one of the many elephants that are in the room for the Nets. There's a lot of elephants that the Nets are dealing with. Not the James Harden elephant. We all know my opinion of that. I'm not going to go into that anymore. Forget about that elephant. The latest elephant, however, is, once again, Kyrie Irving and his beef with the media. As you all know, Kyrie Irving stated in a statement that he was not going to talk to the media this year, basically because every time he says something, the media takes it and they skew it and they manipulate it and they make him look bad or they vilify him and cause unnecessary problems and distractions. So he said in a statement, I'm not going to talk to the media, so on and so forth. I don't want my words to get skewed or anything like that. He then proceeded to come through with what he was saying. He did not talk to the media. And obviously in the NBA, that meant he was going to get fined, which he did because it's in the collective bargaining agreement that all players are supposed to talk to the media. So Kyrie Irving gets fined, the Brooklyn Nets get fined, and that makes Kyrie Irving double down on everything and put out another statement or another post saying, hey, he quoted Malcolm X, and basically he summarized, he just simply said, I'm not going to waste my time with the distractions. I'm here to play basketball, help my community, work with my teammates, and win games. That's what I'm here for. You guys can all do what you want, say what you want. And then he basically referred to the media as pawns, which of course did not sit well with the media. And so now here we are, more crazy, unnecessary drama. Look, we all know that I am in Kyrie's corner. I always am going to side with Kyrie. I talked about it before in previous episodes. I'm a huge Kyrie fan. I created that hashtag I'm with Kyrie thing that, went nowhere, but whatever. If you remember, I did that way back when the media was getting on him before. And I've always said I'm going to defend Kyrie because he's one of the first players in the history of this Nets franchise that really wanted to be a Net. He said, I grew up rooting for this team. I want to be a Net. I want to sign with the Nets. And we all know that that's why it had a lot to do with why KD came here, so I like Kyrie Irving. So I'm not going to bash him, and I'm not going to say that he shouldn't, that he should talk to the media, or he shouldn't. I'm not going to say any of those things. But I will say this to Kyrie. Look, you have the right to do what you want. You have the right to not talk to the media if you don't want to, and I completely get why you don't want to. They always do seem to take something out of context or try to make a big deal, a mountain out of a molehill or something, and so on and so forth. And I get it, and that's why you don't want to talk to them. But the only thing I would say to Kyrie is, it really doesn't matter if you talk to them or not. They're going to just write whatever they want. And we've seen it now. Kyrie doesn't talk to the media. Media comes out with with articles talking about how Kyrie's selfish, a child, not a team player. Doesn't care about his teammates, doesn't care about the fans because he won't talk to the media. Like, they're going to write what they want to write, regardless of what you talk to them, if you talk to them at all. So I get what you're doing, but at the same time, my rebuttal as someone who's trying to be impartial and someone who's trying to support you is don't give them the power. Like, if you don't say anything, you actually give them the power to write whatever the hell they want to write about you. At least if you say something, you at least can control the narrative of what is exactly that's going to be written about. Yes, they might be able to skew it, but right now, they're just destroying you. And I know Kyrie's response will be, NetsBoy, I don't care. I want to be me. I'm going to be me. I'm going to say what I want to say, and I'm going to do what I want to do. And in this case, it's not talk to the media. I don't care if they have a problem with it or they bash me. And you're 100% right, and you should think that way. Once again, my only rebuttal to that is I just don't think it's fair to your teammates. I don't think it is fair that the media, who's doing their job, whether you agree with it or not, is going to go now to Kevin Durant, Steve Nash, DeAndre Jordan, and everyone else on the Nets and say, what do you think Kyrie thinks about this? Because now you're putting your teammates in a situation where they have to put words in your mouth because you're not actually saying anything to the media. Because that's what the media does. So it's kind of like one of those situations where it's like, that's not really fair, is it? Like, and look, I'm not saying that he should talk to the media or he shouldn't. I just think that it's an unfair situation to put your teammates in. Like, what happens if Kyrie misses a game-winning shot, right? The media won't, and he doesn't talk to the media. Well, they're going to go to Kevin Durant. Hey Kevin, why do you think Kyrie missed that shot? You think he crumbled under the pressure? Now you put Kevin Durant in a situation where he's going to be like, well, what am I going to do? And then whatever he says, they're going to skew, and they're not going to have anything that you've said to try to back it or refute what they're skewing. So I just think that he probably should talk to the media at some point. Maybe keep his statements simple. Maybe you could pull a Marshawn Lynch and just give him basic statements, or I'm just here so I don't get fined statements. Things that Marshawn Lynch used to do, and the media actually ended up really liking it and appreciating it, because it's just not fair to your teammates and your coaches and the Nets organization that they have to answer for you. But who knows? Maybe the Nets organization, Kevin Durant and so on and so forth, and everyone else on the Nets, Steve Nash, Sean Marks, maybe they said to Kyrie, hey, we got your back. If you don't want to talk to them, don't. We got it. We'll cover for you. We'll talk on your behalf. That's fine. I just don't think it's fair to them, but I do think and understand why Kyrie wants to do it and why he's doing it, and more power to you, Kyrie. I just don't like it, So that's my part on that. That's all I'm going to say. Kyrie, all I really care about is that you play well this season and you win games and the Nets have a lot of success. That's what I care about. I don't care what you say or what you don't say or what you meant to say or anything like that, as long as you play well. For me, it's all about what you do on the court. So, yeah. And if you ever want to talk to someone who, will, support you regardless of what you say, or 90% of the time of what you say, not that I would ever expect Kyrie Irving to ever see a NetsBoy episode, but I am a local guy who lives in New Jersey who's not too far from where I believe you live or where you grew up. Cough, cough. That's a hint. So, hey, you want to come on to NetsBoy? How awesome would that be, by the way, if Kyrie Irving was a guest on NetsBoy? I might finally get more than 100 views. Anyway, all beside the point. Not going to happen. Nice little fantasy for this delusional Nets fan. But, yeah, so Kyrie, just do your thing. Just play well on the court. Okay, enough with that. Too much time about that. Let's talk about everything else about the Nets. Let's look at the last few moves Sean Marks has made before to solidify the roster. He made a couple moves. Most notably, he brought in and signed Jeff Green. As we all know, Jeff Green is a veteran in this league. He's far removed, though, from the years when he was with the Oklahoma City Thunder, when he was averaging like 18, 19, 20 points a game, and was like the third best player on that team. But he's still a very solid rotational player, and he's a solid veteran. And he's going to be perfect in that depth role at the power forward, small forward spot, maybe a small center at some point. He's going to be kind of like what Wilson Chandler was last year. Just a guy who's going to play about 10 to 15 minutes. I'm not, more like 15, 20 minutes a game, provide some veteran leadership, and hit some threes, and just be a good player. It's a great signing by Sean Marks because at the end of the day, the Nets needed a little bit more depth in the front court. We know Kevin Durant is probably going to have a little load management this year coming off the Achilles injury. So having a player like Jeff Green to play behind Taurean Prince and just helps solidify the depth for when the Nets do rest Kevin Durant. So just a very good signing by Sean Marks. You know, they struck out on getting Serge Ibaka. We all know I wanted him, but I'm okay with it because at this point, if you're going to keep Jarrett Allen, there's no reason to have had Ibaka, and I think putting the money towards Jeff Green was a good move by Sean Marks. Obviously, as we all know, the Nets did also re-sign Joe Harris, which we all basically assumed was going to happen. So Joe Harris is back. We knew that was the number one priority for the Nets, so that was huge. And then another move that the Nets made was they signed Tyler Johnson. And if you remember, last couple episode, I said, I hope the Nets can bring back Tyler Johnson, but I didn't think they were going to be able to. Well, I'm pleasantly wrong and pleasantly surprised. And sure enough, Sean Marks was able to talk to Tyler Johnson. Apparently, there wasn't a big market for the guy, which is pretty shocking considering how well he played in the restart. And now the Nets have another point guard / shooting guard, more depth in the backcourt because similar situation with having someone having more depth to spell time for Kevin Durant when he's doing load management. Kyrie Irving gets hurt all the time and also is probably going to deal with some load management coming off shoulder surgery. So it's nice now that the Nets have another point guard or ball handler type player who can be plugged into the rotation and provide quality minutes. So a great move there by Sean Marks. Those two moves I absolutely love. Replenishing depth where the Nets needed depth, and great signings yet again. Sean Marks then did two more other smaller signings, officially signing Reggie Perry to a non-guaranteed contract. He was the 57th overall pick in this in the draft. Nets traded for his rights. You know, I talked about him before in the last episode about after the draft. Nets really like him. He got a non-guaranteed contract, so this is going to be key for him these preseason games here coming up to try to earn a spot on the roster. No problem with the move. He's a power forward center, big, more depth there. And then shockingly, they also gave a non-guaranteed contract to Chris Chiozza, another fan favorite from the restart, and someone that I also wanted the Nets to try to go after, and Sean Marks did. So Chiozza, once again, more depth in the point guard spot. He played so well in the restart, has earned a chance to make the team. Will he make the team? I don't know. I'm not sure how the contract situations are going to go with the shortened season, even though it's 72 games, but it's still going to be shortened, and with the with the COVID idea, like, will they increase the amount of roster slots? Because if players get COVID, like, will they be able to replenish? I'm not sure how I'm not even sure if they worked it out yet. Maybe someone knows something that I don't. But right now, the Nets have 14 guaranteed contracts. In past, you're only allowed 15 guaranteed contracts and two-way contracts. So right now, the Nets are going to currently have 18 players coming into the preseason with only room for two more spots because Jeremiah Martin took one of the two-way contracts. So there's only one guarantee spot left and one two-way contract left as the only two roster spots open. And there's three guys right now in the Nets that don't have guaranteed contracts. Chris Chiozza, Reggie Perry, and shockingly Timothy Nuabu-Cabarrot, who this season is not guaranteed for him. So it's really between one of those three guys because the rest of the guys have guaranteed contracts. That doesn't mean that the Nets can't waive one of those guaranteed contracts if they didn't play well or whatever. It's just that their money's on the books. So unless the player really plays poorly or those other guys play to the point where they have to be on the roster, they might as well keep them. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So that's something to look at for the preseason, these next couple games, see what happens there. But overall, I love the depth of the Nets. I've talked about this before. That is the key to this season, and that is the key to this Nets team. Their depth is, in my opinion, the best depth than any team in the league. They have guys coming off the bench in the second unit that would be starters on more than half the league. They got guys in the third string like Jeff Green, Rodion Kurucs, Tyler Johnson. Those guys would be rotational players on 50% of the other teams, and they're the third string. So really love what this team's going to look like. It's going to be interesting to see the rotations. I know Steve Nash already hinted that he's going to start Spencer Dinwiddie instead of Karis LeVert and have LeVert come off the bench in the first preseason game. We'll see if that really does happen, which I think is very interesting. Maybe, Steve Nash thinks that LeVert can be more of a true main guy in the second unit. We'll see. It's going to be very interesting, but I love the depth. I love the move Sean Marks made, and I really do think that this Nets team is very complete and has a very good chance of being really good this year, which now takes me to the part where most people care about. Maybe. I don't know. My preseason expectations and predictions. Every year in the history of NetsBoy, I am always wrong with these predictions. I always become super excited and overzealous, and I always say the Nets are going to be better than they actually are. Hence last season when I bet the over on the Nets at 44.5 wins, thinking the Nets were going to win at least 45 games. Once again, I got bailed out by the cancellation of the season, but there was no chance prior to that the Nets were going to get to 45 wins. So this year, I'm going to try to restrain myself from getting super excited. In a 72-game season, I think the Nets will go 45-27. That, to me, is being very conservative. I really don't think the Nets should only win 45 games this season with the team that they have. But I just don't want to be in that situation I've been in the past and say they're going to be better than they actually are. But to me, the way it's assembled, 45-27 is certainly doable. That should put them in a top 3 seed in the East, which to me, anything under the 3 seed in this Eastern Conference would be a disappointment. And really, I think the Nets could be in the low 50s. I think 50 to 52 wins is certainly possible for this Nets team. I really do believe that, but I'm just going to curve everything back and just say 45, just so I look right, because I just want to be right for once. So that's what I think, though. And like I said, to me, there's no reason why they're not a top 3 seed in the East. There's no reason why they don't, coast through the first few rounds of the playoffs. To me, anything less than the Eastern Conference Finals for this team would be a disappointment. Anything less than a top 3 seed in the East would be a disappointment. And that's just the reality of it. And look at the team. They have Kevin Durant, they have Kyrie Irving, they have Spencer Dinwiddie, they have, I'm not going to name everybody. They got Karis LeVert, everything. Like, this team should be in the conversation as one of the best teams in the league. I wouldn't say they are the best team in the league, but they should be in the conversation. So that's what I believe this team can do. My bold prediction, because I always have a bold prediction, I don't think it's that bold to say that my bold prediction would be the Nets winning the NBA championship, because that is the goal this season. So I don't want to think, so that's really not that bold. But I will say this. I think my best bold prediction that popped into my head over the last couple of hours when I was actually thinking about this, my bold prediction is that the Nets will have the best record in basketball next season. Better than the Lakers. Yeah. Best record in the NBA next season, my bold prediction. Why do I think that? Simply, what did I just refer to about 5 minutes ago? The depth. The regular season this year is going to be up and down, topsy-turvy. Games are going to be canceled. Games are going to be postponed. Players are going to get COVID. People are going to be, have to sit games out. It's going to be crazy. The team that's going to do the best are the teams that have the most depth and the most talent with that depth. And so I think the Nets are going to have the most depth and the most talent and the most sustainability throughout the regular season, that my bold prediction is that they will end up with the best record in the NBA. So how many wins would that be? Around 55, maybe? 55-17? Maybe? I don't know, but I think that's a possibility. Do I expect it? No, that's why it's a bold. It's a bold prediction, but that's what I think. I also think that this is going to be the year that everyone finally understands just how good Karis LeVert actually is. Because the Nets have 19 nationally televised games this year. 19! And so a lot of people are going to be watching this Nets team, and I think there's going to be a lot of casual NBA fans who's going to be like, wow, this LeVert guy really is that good. It wasn't just a fluke in the restart bubble. Like, I think that's also going to happen. So that's some of the things I want to see and what I believe. So there you have it. That is my expectations and predictions of this coming NBA season. The season is right around the corner. It's a little over a week away is the first official game. Super excited for it. Like I said, we got preseason basketball right around the corner, hours away depending on when you see this video. And yeah, so we'll see what happens. So there you have it. Video over 20 minutes, way too long. Hope I didn't bore you too much with everything that I'm saying. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about the Kyrie Irving drama, about the moves that Sean Marks made, Jeff Green, Tyler Johnson, so on and so forth. If you agree with me that 45 wins is honestly the low bar of what this Nets team should be, and I think they should be closer to 50. And let me know if you agree with my bold prediction that you think that maybe they could have the best record in the NBA. Let me know anything you guys want. So let me know, and keep your eyes open to the next NetsBoy episode. Not sure when exactly I'll do one. I might do it right after the preseason games end, before the regular season, just to talk about some things we saw in the preseason. And yeah, so keep your eyes open, and until then, this is NetsBoy getting excited because the NBA season is right around the corner, and signing off.